Well, good morning and welcome back to another futile hunt for Red October. Standing in below this absolutely beautiful big old oak tree. Now the conditions are pretty dark and dank at the moment, so I think initially this is going to be a little bit of a wander round and a bit of a recce. But hopeful that the light maybe improves even just a smidge. I don't think we're going to get great conditions, but this is a phenomenal little wood, and as you can see we actually have a little bit of colour in the understory as well, which may help things. So we'll get going, have a bit of a wander and see where we can set something up. Most likely we'll come back to this later on when the light is a little bit better. So actually, complete change of plan. I did decide to stay with this big old oak tree. Now, as I said before, the light isn't great, although it's kind of coming up from this direction, and there's little signs of sort of pinkness in the clouds, which I guess is giving us a little bit of sort of a nicer light than just pure grey. But I've actually resorted into a black and white film simulation on the back of the camera, obviously shooting raw, so the colour file will be there. And these two big old trees set atop this sort of mound, almost like a battle scene. And by putting the camera into the film simulation, I'm focusing much more, not on the colour obviously, but on the actual shapes that the trees are actually pulling. And trying to kind of get these, a couple of things that I've been sort of bearing in mind. One, where those limbs of the trees are actually sort of entering and exiting the frame. Can I get them where they are almost touching the two trees? But then I'm also looking at the hill itself, and I've managed to kind of get a composition where the sort of edges of the bottom of the hill bottom of the hill are actually on either side of the frame. Now the big glaring problem is I'm pointing upwards, and behind the trees, unlike here, it's quite a white blown out sky. Now there's one major issue, or one major sort of spot of sort of really brightness, and so what I've done is I've actually put it on to spot metering, and then metered off the darkest part of the scene initially, just to give me an exposure for the tree, the understory, things like that. And then I could either move my spot metering to another brighter part of the image and take that, or what I'm generally doing is just playing with the exposure compensation. Again, the flexibility of digital, while I may not use all of the images, having a broad range of dynamic range throughout the scene might help me to paint in some of those brighter parts. So I've come away from that big old oak tree quite frustrated actually, because there was actually some lovely soft kind of sort of pinkish light coming through. And I was setting up a pano, and then the heavens opened and the light completely disappeared. Just a little bit of drizzle passing through, but in the distance I can actually see a little bit of light on the far distant hills. Now the hope being, because we've got a little bit of cloud cover, we might get a little bit of reflective light. I'm actually pointing down into the forest now. I've brought myself up above the sort of, not above the tree line obviously, but above the lower path, and of course that allows me to completely remove the sky, which was the big challenge in the previous image. Kind of set up a vertical composition. Again, I think it needs light to really bring out the depth of the image, but there's a little bit of autumn colour in there, albeit starting to look a little bit showy. Aren't we all? Funny story, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. Actually not very funny, quite embarrassing actually. It'd be nice if we got just a little bit of light down into the valley. There's a couple of sort of moss coloured trunks that are kind of interacting quite well. And even behind those in the distance, there's another couple of moss covered trunks as well that are kind of twisted and gnarly. But there's almost a bit of a kind of submission stance going on with the right hand trunk, which is kind of what drew my eye to this, but it certainly needs a little bit of light down there. So, and again, all very simple setup. Just have the polarizer on. Obviously it's quite damp in here, and that's just sort of bringing out some of those extra colours and also removing some of that sheen. XT2 18:135. So we'll hang around here for a moment and see whether we get any light. Loads of jays in this woodland as well, so quite nice. The woodland is just beautiful. Behind me here there's just a lovely sort of depth to the image, but again, now it looks like the sun has broken through quite considerably. Above me here there's a lot of specular highlights, but where I'm looking into behind me there's a big sort of bank, but because we don't have any clouds, can't really see that, but because we don't have any clouds above, the reflective light's not really coming in, so it's very dark, but there looks to be some gorgeous depth and just really gnarled old oaks all the way through it. But I don't think it would make an image just because there's just not a lot of light. And as I say, it looks like I'm going to be battling direct sunlight as well, so no light, too much light. Just somewhere in the middle would be quite nice for once. But yeah, beautiful. Treacherous, mind you. It's very damp, lots of foliage on the floor, very muddy, very up and down, so, and no cell service. So not ideal, but still beautiful. So still in the same spot. We actually ended up getting a little bit of reflective light. Clouds have rolled in. Now I think right now the clouds have also stubbed out the sun. Just that little transition period where the sun is still out but there's clouds above you can actually bring some nice reflective light into this area. So you can probably just see that there's a little meandering stream. Of course, with clouds comes rain. Sort of a coppery colour, which I've included in the frame. Couple of challenges. One down in the bottom left hand corner here, or sort of quite close around there somewhere. There's a twig. There's a twig that's sort of poking up into the scene. Again, I'm not one for too much gardening, so it might have to be digitally removed, or I might just leave it. And then top left hand corner, wow, that light is just gone, completely gone now from the scene. Top left hand corner, there was a little bit of a light leak, so again it was just a case of putting my hand over the top of the frame and making the image there. So yeah, the light is now completely gone from that, so I'm glad I ended up getting out the main camera. I've been playing about with the iPhone, and I think I've said this before, the lesson that I've taught myself so many times is, you know, if you think there's a scene there, get the main camera out. You just never know whether the light's going to be better or whatever. So, well, it is what it is. But that light has now completely gone, and that rain looks like it's starting again. So we'll probably wander on a bit. So again, another little scene behind me, which could do, as I've said before, with just a smidgen of light. Not sure about you, but anytime I'm in the woods, mostly of what I see, the sort of characters in the wood, there's always sort of battles and kind of arguments and whatever going on, and that's kind of what I've seen here in this scene. On the left hand side is the sort of foreboding, sort of bigger antagonist, even complete with its little kind of, I don't know, bloodhound running along behind, and then on the right hand side is the much weaker and sort of cowering sort of little trees, and kind of that's, you've even got the sort of big overarching sort of arm of the bigger tree, and we had more rain move through, but actually what that did was it sort of quite diffused the background. Now again, it's one of those situations where while most of the frame doesn't include the sky, there's just maybe a little smidge of sky appearing in there that I'm going to have to contend with as well. Now that rain has moved through, very sort of mundane and drab conditions again. So, and again, a nice little lesson about, you know, always looking behind you when you're walking. Quite often when I'm doing a circuit, I'll walk both ways or linear out and back, but this is not really that feasible in this woodland, so I'm always kind of stopping and looking behind me, because I would have missed this scene if I had have just wandered on. So, but yeah, lack of light, but still good to kick the old grey matter into gear, or at least try to. Right, we'll wander on. Well, I was just making my way around to another scene that I'd recce'd several weeks ago, and I noticed something moving up in the bushes, and it was a deer, and I thought as soon as it catches my scent it'll be off, but it wasn't, and it's not in a very good way, and I've got no reception in the woodland, so I wandered back down again to pick up reception, and I've tried to call Ulster Wildlife and other rescue centres, and there's just no response, whether that's a COVID thing or not. But yeah, it's very sad. So honestly, I'm not sure I can carry on just wandering around the forest making a vlog when there's clearly an injured and distressed animal. So I think I am going to have to call it, and wander back down again and see whether I can get some reception. It's a 4-pointer, 4 years old, but yeah, it seems to be very unsteady on its back leg. Now of course we are just exiting the rutting season, so whether this fella here has sustained an internal injury or something, but he's very disorientated, and I really don't want him to be, well, suffering. But also, obviously, we're in a woodland here. It is reasonably popular with dog walkers, so you don't want a dog coming across it, because you don't want either the deer or the dog to get further injured. So, oh, I think he's getting up. Give him a bit of space. It's very sad. I'll give you some space. It's all right. I'll take a wander back. Yeah, it looks like it's going to wander on. So, right, so yeah. Well, I did not expect that to be the end of today's vlog. I'm going to go off out, try to get some reception, and try to get maybe someone to come up and deal with the situation. Not pleasant. Right. On that note, I shall head on, and again, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care, bye bye.